Things set up and ready to go. It's 5 o'clock. I usually start 15 minutes or early, but today, man, I forgot that I needed to do my notes, so I'm kind of running by the skin of my teeth at the moment. So trust me that I do have some notes and everything and discussions to come up with, but it's not going to be as organized as what it has been. I'm checking the audio real quick while I am talking with you guys, so be patient with me. I'm also going. Today is actually a audio sounds good on Beam. Today is actually going to be an interesting one because today I'm doing one topic that I really do not like discussing. Audio is good on Rumble. It looks like X is kicking in. Everything's good on D-Line. Twitch is up and going. And so is Kick. So let me go and look at my live stream. See if I'm live streaming. Yeah. Oh God, they did me on Bob Dub duality with Bob Dub. Um, that's ridiculous. Yeah. Okay, so I am shutting down YouTube on Beam and going back and resetting that. Shut it down. Yeah. See, that's what happens when you get in a rush. Go ahead and delete that. I haven't used duality with Bob Dub in forever, so all of a sudden, yeah, had I, I was supposed to manage is what I want schedule, and now I go into ancient mysteries. Use that. That was ridiculous. Yeah. Now I can get this going, set up, and ready to go on YouTube. Um, okay, so let me see if that is kicked in. All right, yeah. So it finally came on. We'll find out if I got the problem taken care of. Yeah, there we go. And we have that taken care of. It's up and it's going. Like I said, this is a topic I really don't like doing. Um, I am going to be discussing Moloch. Now, last year when I did it with Karma, this caused a lot of friction between me and Karma. It almost messed up our friendship, and I really don't like having the conversation too much about it. But it's something that looks like something that I possibly I can't freaking avoid because a lot of the information that I have been pulling when it comes to this stuff um, comes off of Philo and his writings, and he was a early Christian founder that wrote against the pagans because well not yeah well he used Sennacherib's writings basically in order to or for his arguments against paganism, because there was a big debate going on between the Christians and the pagans back then, and how I don't know how you could say that, how the Christian religion actually had a legitimacy, basically, is what the pagans were arguing. And in turn, Philo wrote his arguments against the pagans. They wrote their arguments against the Christians. And a lot of the information that I've gathered and I've been working with has to do with those writings. So it's pretty interesting. It really is. So today, what I've done is, this is actually where a lot of the derailment that took place freaking happened. You know what I mean? Like, we're finally all caught up. I've finally gotten everything, but we've come to this point. So I am going to put, first of all, some cool music on, because I need to recover from this. And come back and get my head together, and smoke a cigarette and get some coffee. But this is going to be an interesting conversation. I think it's kind of weird, considering yesterday's stream. On top of that, that was a pretty strange one. Now I'm going into another stream talking about Moloch. So, and it's like I said, I've been wanting to avoid this one, but apparently this is something that I'm going to have to go over and discuss. Maybe doing it myself this time will be a better situation than what it was. I almost forgot to test the audio on X, but you know what? I've already tested the other ones, so I don't see a reason. Yeah, there we go. There we go. It's actually working. I ended up muting it. So what I am going to do is put some music on and let you guys listen to it, and come back and we can start the episode. I'm running a few minutes late, which is better than yesterday. I actually had to freaking put or I had to do it really late in the afternoon. So let me put this on, and then some music. Nope, just background. Actually, you know what? I got a new picture too that I can put on there, because the moment I put music on that slideshow right there is going to stop. So, and since, let's see here, find the longest one so that it takes up more time. I'll do Echoes of Atlantis for you guys. I'll be right back.
Once the gods carved earth like a cosmic chessboard, Poseidon claimed Atlantis, his star-born accord. 10 twin suns, throne of tridents waves at his command. Empire stretched from Baalbic stones to Mayan sand. Monolith stacked like Legos blocks no crane could lift. Sonic levitation, gods don't need pulleys or grit. Athena taught Athens, Hephaestus forged veins of gold, but Atlantis spires pierced heaven, stories untold. Is of virtue, divine blood pure in the veins. No egregious geodesic temples where starlight reigns, but mortality crept in, diluted the grace. Gold turned to rust, hubris eclipsed the god face.
Of Atlantis, drowned in the deep. Poseidon's lost kingdom, where titans still sleep. From these tetralogical to coals and awe, as above, so below, cosmic empire of modern princes of plasma, their thrones now debris. Echoes of Atlantis, where gods walked the
saw vice crack the divine. Pyramids hummed warnings, but they ignored the signs. Sky split with fury, tsunami swallowed their pride. Atlantis sang screaming, but blueprints survived. Complex foundation, stones that defy modern math. 1,000-ton puzzle, gravity's aftermath. Scholars still baffled how they align the stars. They rode cosmic currents, breaching space-time's bars. Now divers chase shadows where crystal cities gleamed. AI scans the ocean, but truth a half-dream. Freemasons whisper maps in their lodges of lore. Plato's Critias, a metaphor or a war.
Echoes of Atlantis drowned in the deep. Poseidon's lost kingdom where titans still sleep. From music if you wanna go to cold attention, all as above so below. Cosmic empire of laws and princes of plasma, their thrones now debris. Echoes of Atlantis where gods walk the sea.
They say Poseidon's seed still flows in our veins. In every megalith, every grid that restrains. The Dogon chart Sirius, Templars guard the flame. But Atlantis tech, it's encoded in our DNA's frame. Zeus's verdict was fire, a flood in ice. Yet the Sphinx still stares, whispering sacrifice. Mortal minds crave power, but miss the design. True kings rule through resonance, not bloodline. Now decode the ruins, their psalms etched in stone. A star-born king's empire, now dust and bone. The hall of records buried neath Giza's cold gaze holds anti-gravity schematics from pre-flood days. Crystal engines hummed, organ fueled their might, till pride turned their frequencies dissonant blight. The Anunnaki fled, Mars colonies crumbled. Leviathan's bones in the Mariana rumbled. But Poseidon's ghost rides the Bermuda's mist. Evolve past the greed or drown in the abyss. Tsunamis taller than gods crack continents like eggs. Jungles of Egypt drowned, turned to sand in Poseidon's regret. Mammals shrunk to lapdogs, skies choked by volcanic breath. Waves circled the globe thrice, 3 funerals for death. Up Nepiston, rode the arc of frequencies, not wood. Up tetrahedron ziggurat where anti-grav pulses stood. While Atlantis sank, he spliced DNA and quantum seeds. Stashed them in Göbekley's veins and Indus Valley reeds. Volcanic winter's curse. Zeus hit the reset, scorched the grids, erased the moon ringed internet. Noah's not a shepherd, he's a star-born archivist. Cracking hermetic scrolls in caves where mushrooms twist. The survivors crawl from mud with amnesiac eyes. Built new gods from scrap metal and fallen skies. Now desert bones whisper where cedars once soared. Man's just a ghost in Atlantis' holographic horde. Wasn't water, it was math. A codex purge, Enoch's nightmares digitized in the cosmic surge. As above, so below, the blueprint stays true. Rise from the ashes or drown in what's new.
The flood wasn't water, it was math. A codex purge, Enoch's nightmares digitized in the cosmic surge. As above, so below, the blueprint stays true. Rise from the ashes or drown in what's you. Echoes of Atlantis drowned in the deep, the deep. Poseidon's lost kingdom where titans still sleep. From Giza to Tijuana, their codes etched in awe. As above, so below, cosmic empire of law. 10 princes of plasma, their thrones now debris. Echoes of Atlantis, where gods walk the sea. So when you see Stonehenge, anchor one spire, though Atlantis lives in the quantum choir. The gods were missed, their mentors in code. Rise from the ashes, or repeat what they owe.
Once the gods carved earth like a cosmic chessboard, Poseidon claimed Atlantis, his star-born accord. 10 twin suns, throne of tridents waves at his command. Empire stretched from bow, big stones to Mayan sand. Monolith stacked like Legos blocks no crane could lift. Sonic levitation, gods don't need pulleys or grit. Athena taught Athens, Hephaestus forged veins of gold, but Atlantis spires pierced heaven, stories untold. Is of virtue, divine blood pure in the veins. No egregious geodesic temples where starlight reigns, but mortality crept in, diluted the grace. Gold turned to rust, hubris eclipsed the god fast.
Of Atlantis, drowned in the deep. Poseidon's lost kingdom, where titans still sleep. From these the tetragonical, the cold section, all as above, so below. Cosmic empire of modern princes of plasma, their thrones now debris. Echoes of Atlantis, where gods walked the sea.
Zeus watched the fall, saw vice crack the divine. Pyramids hummed warnings, but they ignored the signs. Sky split with fury, tsunami swallowed their pride. Atlantis sang screaming, but blueprints survived. Baalbek's foundation, stones that defy modern math. 1,000-ton puzzle, gravity's aftermath. Scholars still baffled how they align the stars. They rode cosmic currents, breaching space-time's bars. Now divers chase shadows where crystal cities gleam. AI scans the ocean, but truth a half-dream. Dream Freemasons whisper maps in their lodges of lore. Plato's Critias, a metaphor or a war.
Echoes of Atlantis, drowned in the deep. Poseidon's lost kingdom, where titans still sleep. From music to theological, the cold tension, all as above, so below. Cosmic empire of law, 10 princes of plasma, their thrones now debris. Echoes of Atlantis, where gods walk the sea.
They say Poseidon's seed still flows in our veins. In every megalith, every grid that restrains. The Dogon chart Sirius, temples guard the flame. But Atlantis tech, it's encoded in our DNA's frame. Zeus's verdict was fire, a flood in ice. Yet the Sphinx still stares, whispering sacrifice. Mortal minds crave power, but miss the design. True kings rule through resonance, not bloodline. Now decode the ruins, their psalms etched in stone. A star-born king's empire, now dust and bone. The hall of records buried neath Giza's cold gaze holds anti-gravity schematics from pre-flood days. Crystal engines hummed, organ fueled their might, till pride turned their frequencies dissonant blight. The Anunnaki fled, Mars colonies crumbled. Leviathan's bones in the Mariana rumbled. But Poseidon's ghost rides the Bermuda's mist. Evolve past the greed or drown in the abyss. Tsunamis taller than gods, crack continents like eggs. Jungles of Egypt drowned, turned to sand in Poseidon's regret. Mammals shrunk to lapdogs, skies choked by volcanic breath. Waves circled the globe thrice, 3 funerals for death. Up the piston, rode the arc of frequencies, not wood. Up tetrahedron ziggurat where anti-grav pulses stood. While Atlantis sank, he spliced DNA and quantum seeds, stashed them in Göbekley's veins and Indus Valley reeds. Volcanic winter's curse. Zeus hit the reset, scorched the grids, erased the moon ringed internet. Noah's not a shepherd, he's a star-born archivist. Cracking hermetic scrolls in caves where mushrooms twist. The survivors crawl from mud with amnesiac eyes. Built new gods from scrap metal and fallen skies. Now desert bones whisper where cedars once soared. Man's just a ghost in Atlantis' holographic horde. The flood wasn't water, it was math. A codex purge, Enoch's nightmares digitized in the cosmic surge. As above, so below, the blueprint stays true. Rise from the ashes or drown in what's new.
The flood wasn't water, it was math. A codex purge, Enoch's nightmares digitized in the cosmic surge. As above, so below, the blueprint stays true. Rise from the ashes or drown in what's you. Echoes of Atlantis drowned in the deep, the deep. Poseidon's lost kingdom, where titans still sleep. From Giza to Tijuana, their codes etched in awe. As above, so below, cosmic empire of law. 10 princes of plasma, their thrones now debris. Echoes of Atlantis, where gods walk the sea. So when you see Stonehenge and Gold's Spire, know Atlantis lives in the quantum choir. The gods were mist and in toes and code, rise from the ashes or repeat what they owe.
Okay, so with that being done, I think it's time to get on with the show. We were already 21 minutes in. There was only like a minute left of it, and it's all just musical. So that was Mr. Robot's song. It's called Echoes of Atlantis. Before I get started, I want to correct something that I said earlier. The writings that I've been going off of has been from Eusebius of Caesarea. I said Pluto, or I said somebody else. I'm having a hard time right now. I got off to a crazy beginning for today. So, with that being said, I'm going to continue where I wanted to start off. Now, like I said, last year, this is pretty much the area where freaking everything fell the off the map, I guess, when it comes to the discussion that we were having. We basically derailed from everything, and it happened even before then. But this was where we finally ended up having to just call it quits on this topic. And don't get me wrong, like even with the episodes we did last year, which is actually being posted on the Wonderful World of Weirdness as not strange stories, but ancient mysteries. The 15-minute blocks, not the live streams, but those are from last year. And we did have good conversations about different topics, but it wasn't exactly what I had outlined for doing. This was supposed to be based off of the writing of Eusebius of Caesarea. And he took quotations from Century Atheon, which was translated by Philo Biblos, and that's where I said it wrong. I said that they were writings from Philo Biblos, but this is actually Eusebius using Philo Biblos's translations, and he was an early church member back whenever Christianity was in its golden day, as people like to call it. But that's where these writings come from, and this is where I pulled a lot of this information from. Now, this is a good time for me to actually start reading some of the stuff that Eusebius wrote, and then incorporating what I had learned in that as well. Now, this does relate to Moloch. So with Moloch, we're going to be hearing about it. I had some misconceptions of it as well, but I was also right to a certain extent too. So with this, in this episode, we're going to find out the truth about Moloch, and that's going to be it. I'm not going to have anybody on here this time either, because the last time I did it, like I said, it caused a lot of issues. This is a very controversial topic. A lot of people have a lot of hateful beliefs that go behind this topic, and it's caused a lot of death through through the centuries for the last 1,500 years because of what I'll be discussing right now. But I'm not going to get into all of that. I'm going to get into the facts on what this is. And the first thing I want to point out is the fact that this was written by Eusebius. It was also written by Philo of Byblos. These were people who were born, lived, and died hundreds of years after the, or even thousands of years after the Phoenicians were long gone. Okay, Carthaginians, these people had absolutely no knowledge of what actually took place there. So just keep that in mind. By the time these people were born, everything that was pertaining to the Phoenicians was pretty much destroyed and hidden away. The only real evidence we have, or we had for the longest time, that the Phoenicians existed was Greek myth and Greek lore, which up until the time that the city of Troy was discovered, people didn't even know if it was real or not. You know what I mean? People didn't even know that the city of Troy existed until it was finally unearthed. This is within the last 200 years. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind whenever you hear this. You're hearing a lot of this stuff from a Christian slash Greek point of view, not from the Phoenicians' point of view. So when I'm reading this, so let me go ahead and get it started. Now let us no let these suffice as quotations from the writings of Senenchunathion, translated by Philo of Byblos, and approved as true by the testimony of Porphyry the philosopher. The same author, in his History of the Jews, further writes thus concerning Kronos: Tuathis, whom the Egyptians called Thoith, excelled in wisdom among the Phoenicians, and was the first to rescue the worship of the gods from the ignorance of the vulgar, and arrange it in the order of intelligent experience. Many generations after him, a god, Sermobelos and Thoros, whose name was changed to Isarthus, brought to light the theology of Tuathis, which has been hidden and overshadowed by allegories. Now, Tuathis is Toith or Thoith or Thoth. I call him Thoth, but there's different ways that you can say it: Tuathis or Tuatis. You can pronounce it any way you want. They really don't know the appropriate name for him. So just so you know, I mean, you don't have to be like precise on it. Now, from that, I want to go into the Ithothoi and its associations. Now, what that really means is the good daemon, or the good demon. Daemon, Daemon, is what that is. That's Agathodion, Thodomon in Phoenician and Hellenistic traditions. This was often associated with the practice with a protective spirit or divine force, similar to the Egyptian Kneph, Kneph, or Cneph, whichever way. And that's a deity that was linked to creative energy, self-existence in the cosmic order. Now, it also has to do with the hawk-headed form, which connects this being to the solar principles, reminiscent of like Horus in Egyptian mythology, reinforcing the idea of divine vision, celestial power, and perpetual renewal. And I've mentioned that before. Like in a lot of this, you'll hear the term renewal, regeneration, all of that being brought up over and over again. This is a term that's constantly used all throughout history, even before Judaism or even the Egyptians, to be honest. I've been finding it everywhere. So just just keep that in mind. These are concepts that's been around for a really, really long time. Now, the idea that ethothy is immortal and self-consumed suggests a cyclical nature akin to the phoenix, Ouroboros, or self-regenerating deities in various Indo-European traditions. This symbolism aligns with mythological concepts of eternal recurrences, sacrifice, and divine self-containment. So now you have regeneration, you have regenerating, okay? You have sacrificing and being reborn. This is something that occurs um, all throughout ancient history. It started all the way back with the Indo-Europeans, the Indo-Aryans. It's in not only in Judaism, it's also associated with the Phoenicians, with the Canaanites, all of these, the Egyptians, the Babylonians, all of them, even with the Nords up north with Odin. It's they all speak of this, so it's pretty interesting. Now, if we analyze Ephiathai in a broader mythological framework, it fits into a pattern of primordial beings that embody cosmic balance and self-renewal. Now, Ouroboros, which is Greek, Egyptian, Norse, and Gnostic traditions, okay, says that the serpent eating its own tail represents infinity, self-regeneration, and the cyclical nature of time. Now, the phoenix, which is Greek, Egyptian, and Persian traditions, says that the phoenix is a bird that dies and is reborn through fire, embodying the principles of resurrection and eternal life. Now, when we go on to the Hindu tradition, you have Vishnu's Garuda, right? And that's a bird-like being associated with cosmic balance, protection, and divine energy. Now, this one is where we come to the Greek Phoenician traditions. This is Agathodaimon, okay? Now, this is a benevolent serpent spirit, often linked to wisdom, protection, and faith. So right here, you see this connection that I'm always talking about between the serpent and the bird. And it's a reoccurring theme that goes all the way back to the Sumerians. It goes back to the Sumerians, the Babylonians, into the Assyrians, the Hittites. You've got the freaking now I'm having a brain fart. Hittites, the Phoenicians, the Canaanites, even Judaism. You know what I mean? They even talk about the serpents and then the Egyptians as well. It's everywhere, and in Hindu tradition as well. So you have the bird and the reptilians. Now, from my research, okay, into Proto-Indo-European mythology, ancient deities, temple structures, and subterranean realms are a big thing that is a reoccurring theme that emerges from all the stuff that I do, okay? Now, a lot of it has to do with cosmic duality and balance. The idea of forces that are both self-contained and yet eternally renewing, and that is that has to do with things like Ithothai and Ouroboros and Phoenix and Shiva lingams and drainage into the underworld and things like that. If you've been watching my videos, you'll see that I have a lot of that stuff. Um, that has to do with cosmic duality and balance. So just keep that in mind too. Um, I also get into like the subterranean realms, okay? And the reason why I do that is because many of the temples and the caves and myths that I investigated connect divine energies to the underground spaces, to underground spaces. I also am fascinated with the Nagas and the ancient stories behind all of that. Um, that 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 suggests that ancient people saw the earth as a reservoir of divine power, and that's one of the things. Okay, um, and then that also brings up what I was talking about, the serpent and the bird symbolism. Many of the beings that I've acquired about and I've done my research about take forms associated with serpents like Naga, uh, and then the Agatha daemon, and then you have the Ouroboros, or the birds, you know, the Garuda, the Horus, and then you have hawk-headed gods, things of that nature, you know. And this often signifies wisdom, rebirth, and transcendence. Uh, now, all of this has to do with stuff that has to do with hidden knowledge, and it's an esoteric legacy. Okay, you have to understand. Like right now, I'm sitting here on the internet and I'm discussing it openly, and people are able to get on here and hear this stuff. Okay, but at one time, not nobody could hear this stuff. This stuff was banned. I mean, it was hidden away. If you even discussed it in public and other people heard it, you would most likely be put to death for it. It was not acceptable in society because of the religions that were around, and it all depended, or no, it didn't depend. You just you did not discuss this stuff. You know, this was very, very sacrilegious to these people, and you would have been put to death for it. So um, that's the one thing that I do want to point out, that this was hidden knowledge, and it was an esoteric legacy. My research, it draws together the Phoenicians, the Egyptians, the Hindus, and the Indo-European elements, um, um, and it suggests that certain mythological structures persist across civilizations. Uh, but you have to understand they manifest in culturally unique ways. Like they aren't like all the same. There's different variants of it. You know what I mean? Uh, Now, Sir Mobilis in Pharaoh uh, is interpreting. It has a lot to do with the interpretation. So let me make sure that I am where I want to be whenever I start this, because I don't want to get too far ahead before I continue my readings from Eusebius. So the name Sir I have a hard time with it, Sir Mobilis, and the word Theros, they don't appear in widely known mythological sources. Just to let you know, um, but they have been given in the Phoenician and the Hellenistic influences, mostly in Seneca accounts. Um, Now, I went through and I attempted to analyze this within that framework. You know what I mean? So this is what I basically came up with. Sermobelus, which is Sourmoubelos, is a name that might be a corruption or variant of a Phoenician deity, or an epithet linked to Baal. and Baal means Lord, okay, or Belos, and that's a title of Baal Bel. Now, Bel is actually a Babylonian deity. Um, I, I'm pretty sure that Bel is actually Enki. Now, I've heard a lot of people argue about that if Bel was Enki or Enlil, but I'm pretty sure it's Enki. Enki was the father of Marduk. Um, and with his battle with Tiamat, I remember Bel was the one who drew the gods together so that freaking they could decide for Marduk to fight against Tiamat. So I'm pretty sure that it's actually Enki who was renamed into Bel. I can go over that later on to make sure, but I wanted to point that out. But anyhow, Belos is a title of Baal Bel, and when you say Baal Bel, you're talking Canaanite Baal and then Bel together. Now, it may have connections to Moloch or Baal Shaman or Shaman. Now, Baal Shaman, which is BAL or Baalshamin, he's often mixed up with Baal Bel, but they are actually two separate deities in the Canaanite pantheon. So just be aware of that. And a lot of people do that too. They clump them together as one deity, and they're not. They're actually two separate deities that were probably incorporated together at one point or another because they did that too. But just understand that Baal Bel and Baal Shaman are two separate deities. Like I said, um, Sermobelus could have connections to Moloch or Baal Shaman, who were prominent sky gods in the Phoenician theology. So yeah, it's Phoenician as well as Canaanite. Now, if the names contain Mobilis, it could relate to Belus. Okay, so just keep that aware. And Belus is Bel Baal, potentially meaning something like exalted Baal or a divine figure associated with celestial authority. Um, Now, with that, I want to focus on Thuro, Thuro. And then there is also Eusarthus. Eusarthus is another name that is interesting because Thoros was actually, his name was changed to Eusarthus, and that is something that I wanted to go over. The name change from Thoros to Eusarthus. It suggests a transformation of religious doctrine, possibly influenced by Hellenization or some kind of esoteric interpretation. Now, the prefix EU in Greek often means good or well, implying a refined or purified version of a deity or theological concept. Now, if Thuro is linked to an older deity, it could be a reference to Thor or Tharhud, and that would be the Hittite storm god, or even a Phoenician storm deity. The transition to Eusarthus might indicate a shift towards a more intellectual or mystical interpretation of an older god, basically. Now, the connection to Tuatis, which is Thoth Hermes, uh, and when it goes into like the hidden theology, the you got to understand that the passage that I just spoke about states that Sura Mobilis and Thoro or Eusarthus brought to light the theology of Tuatis, okay, which had previously been hidden by allegories. Now, this implies that these figures were seen as reformers or restorers of ancient wisdom, uncovering lost or obscured theological truths. Now, Twatis, often equated with Thoth or Hermes Trismegistus, was considered the god of wisdom, language, and secret knowledge. The idea of hidden wisdom and revelation aligns with Hermetic, Gnostic, and even early Phoenician theological traditions, where sacred knowledge was often concealed in allegories, symbols, and esoteric traditions. You can also find that like in biblical passages and stuff. It's everywhere. It's not just refined or confined actually to just the Phoenicians or the Greek or anything. You can even find it in biblical passages where they use allegory quite a bit. So um, now with all that, if I do like a comparative analysis with this on other myths, I also come up with this pattern of forgotten wisdom rediscovered by later figures, which appears in multiple traditions. You have Hermeticism, that's the teaching of Hermes Trismegistus, um, uh, and that was said to have had like hidden and later rediscovered uh, information that was rediscovered by initiates because they had mystery schools, you know what I mean, and things of that nature. So you had that going on. Then you have like the Hindu Puranic tradition, the Vedas, which are considered eternal but often become obscured in dark ages and are often revived by sages, things of that nature. You have the Gnostic and the mystic traditions, which have sacred texts that are often said to be misunderstood by the masses and later clarified by enlightened teachers. So, my references to Sir Mobilis and Thorough Eusarthus, um, it does suggest the theological transformation where older Phoenician doctrines were reinterpreted or rediscovered. Um, you have to understand that these figures may represent priestly or divine reformers, okay, reviving the wisdom of Tawatis in a more accessible or systematized form. Their stories fits with like a broader Indo-European or Near Eastern pattern of what would be determined as hidden wisdom, which is supposed to be uncovered through divine or semi-divine figures. And Thoth, in everything that I've found so far, Thoth, there is a really, really good chance that Tawatis or Thoth was actually human. And he brought writing to the Egyptians. He brought education to the Egyptians and taught them how to write and things of that nature. From what I'm reading, I mean, it's not just with Eusebius either, but like with the Phoenician um, traditions and things that are going on there. I have noticed that that there's a good chance he could have been a mortal where he was deified after the fact. You know what I mean? And that's something that also is mentioned in a lot of these older books where humans are being deified to godlike status. Eusebius even brings it up in his book about that happening. And after going through this stuff as much as I have, I'm starting to see that maybe he was right about it. I'm not a big fan of Eusebius, don't get me wrong, but he does bring a pretty good argument up when it comes to that to that term. So it's something Now, it's something to look at, you know what I mean? So I'm going to stop there with those topics, and I'm going to continue with what I was talking about. Now, let me go ahead and repeat uh, what Eusebius had said about about shadowed by allegories. Okay. Now, he's talking about Philos, Biblos, I believe. Okay, Tawatis, whom the Egyptians called Thoif, uh, excelled in wisdom among the Phoenicians, and was the first to rescue the worship of gods from the ignorance of the vulgar, and arrange it in an order of intelligent experience. Many generations after him, a god, Sormobelus, and Thoro, whose name was changed to Eusarthus, brought to light the theology of Tuathus, which had been hidden and overshadowed by allegories. And soon after he says, it was a custom of the ancients in great crisis of danger for the rulers of the city or nation of, in order to avert the common ruin, to give up the most beloved of their children for sacrifice as a ransom to the avenging daemons. And those who were thus given up were sacrificed with mystic rites. Now, this is where we come up into Moloch. And like I said before, understand that this is Eusebius who is writing this, and he's using um, he, he's using Tawatus as an example for this, as well as Eusarthus. Um, so understand that much. And this is taking place years and years and years after Phoenicians were long gone and the Carthaginians were long gone. This is um, something that was translated by the Greek Christians and not actual text that's being written by the Phoenicians themselves. So, Cronos then, whom the Phoenicians called Elis, who was the king of the country and subsequently, after his decease, was deified as the star Saturn, had by a nymph of the country named Anabred an only begotten son, whom they on this account called Ledud, or Ledud, the only begotten being still so called among the Phoenicians. And when very great dangers from war had beset the country, he arrayed his son in royal apparel and prepared an altar and sacrificed him. So this is where Cronos, who is the Phoenicians called Elis, had sacrificed his son Leded. Okay. Again, see what the same author in his translation from Senechunathion about the Phoenician alphabet says concerning the reptiles and venomous beasts, which contribute no good service to mankind, but work death and destruction to any in whom they inject their incurable and fatal poisons. This also he describes, saying word for word as follows: the nature then of the dragon and of serpents Tuathus himself regarded as divine, and so again after him did the Phoenicians and Egyptians, for this animal was declared by him to be of all reptiles most full of breath and fury, in consequence of which it also exerts an unsurpassable swiftness by means of its breath, without feet and hands or any other of the external members by which the other animals make their movements. It also exhibits forms of various shapes, and in its progress makes spiral leaps as swift as it chooses. It is also most long-lived, and its nature is to put off its old skin, and so not only to grow young again, but also to assume a larger growth. And after it has fulfilled its appointed measure of age, it is self consumed. In like manner as Tuathis himself has set down in his sacred books, for which reason this animal has also been adopted in temples and in mystic rites. So, with that, I want to take a step back and I want to discuss uh, the Phoenician records that explicitly mention a deity named Moloch. Okay. Now, like I said, Phoenician records that explicitly mention the deity Moloch, and those records are scarce. Now, there are claims that archaeological findings and inscriptions provide like insights into related practices and deities within the Phoenician and Carthaginian cultures. All right, um, that a good example would be the Phoenician inscription and the term MLK, which I call Milky, but MLK is an inscription. In the Punic Carthaginian inscriptions, the term MLK it frequently appears. Um, it, it's been subject to a lot of scholarly debate. Some interpretations suggest that MLK refers to a specific type of sacrifice rather than a deity. Now, this perspective was notably proposed by Otto Eisfeld in 1935, who argued that MLK denoted a sacrificial rite, possibly involving children, rather than the name of a god. Now, these inscriptions often associate MLK with terms like MR, which is lamb, or BL, which is citizen, and DM, which means human being, indicating the nature of the offering. Okay. Now, this next part I want to bring up too. Like they talk about Tophits and they talk about this inscription. Okay. So let me go ahead and get through with the inscription. Now, archaeological sites known as Tophits, which are open air sanctuaries, have been discovered in regions associated with Phoenician and Carthaginian settlements. Now, these sites contain urns with the cremated remains of infants and animals, accompanied with stela bearing inscriptions. The inscriptions typically record dedications to deities such as Tanit, which is Tanit, and Balhaman, but do not explicitly mention Moloch. Now, the presence of the term MLK in these contexts have led some scholars to connect it with the sacrificial practices evidence at these sites. Now, I've seen video and I've also seen photos of these sites, and I've listened to a lot of the archaeologists talk in their interviews and stuff about them. A lot of the guys who are against the idea of these being sacrificial sites bring up a good point. Now, what they don't bother to tell you about these sites is the fact that these urns were found just right there within burial sites. I mean, there's other people that are buried within this area, and they go in and they find these urns with these animals and these babies, and they say, well, this was a sacrificial site. These were all found in areas that were actually burial sites for everybody, not just babies and not just animals. And tofits have been used for burial by all of the cultures during the time period of the Phoenicians. Like tofits are kind of expected. Even the Persians used tofits, which is open air. Well, not temples, but altars. Um, as a matter of fact, the Phoenicians thought that it was sacrilege to make offerings in sheltered areas, that it had to be outside under the sky. You know what I mean? And a lot of cultures back then believed in that. So that is one thing that I wanted to bring up, because I have actually seen a lot of pros and cons on this. Um, Now, other than that, they have MLK, and MLK is just an insignia that they find at these sites. And they don't know for sure if this is actually a deity or if it's just a marking saying that this was a ritual that took place. Um, and that was something that was very important for me to bring up. Now, getting back into the interpretations and the scholarly debates, you have to understand that the lack of direct references to Moloch in Phoenician texts, they have led to like various interpretations. Um, if you look at Moloch as a sacrificial term, you'll see that some scholars propose that MLK refers to a type of sacrifice, possibly involving children, rather than a deity. Now, this view is supported by the context of which MLK appears in Punic inscriptions. Now, if you look at Moloch Baal as a deity, you'll find that others suggest that Moloch was a deity associated with these sacrifices, drawing parallels with deities like Baal Haman, uh, who were venerated in Phoenician and Carthaginian cultures. Now, while direct Phoenician documentation of a deity named Moloch is limited, um, existing inscriptions and archaeological evidence uh, is supposed to be providing valuable insights into the sacrificial practices and deities of Phoenician and Carthaginian societies. Now, the term MLK, that plays a central role in this discussion. Okay, though its exact interpretation, whether a type of sacrifice or the name of a deity, remains a topic of scholarly debate, it still remains like central. It's central. It's central when it comes to this discussion. This is all they have when it comes to the whole idea of Moloch. Just three words: MLK, and that's it. Now, there are very few direct references uh, to a lot of that too. So you need to understand that aren't um, these aren't abundant. Like, you don't go all over the Middle East and find these sacrificial sites with MLK written everywhere. They're very few and far between. They're not as popular as what everybody tries to make them out to be. So just realize that when you hear this stuff. So let's see here. I'm gonna go and check and see if we've got any comments so far. I'm surprised nobody's badmouthed me by now, especially my friends. They love to badmouth me when it comes to talking about Moloch Ball. Oh, you horrible, horrible man. How dare you say that Moloch Ball didn't sacrifice babies? Well, it looks like I made it this far without any harassment. So, um, let me find out where I'm at. Okay, now, right here it says that Kronos, then, whom the Phoenicians called Elis. Okay, so I've read all of that. Let me see. Anabret, and Ledude. Now, I went and I actually did do some research on Anabret. Now, Anabret is mentioned in Philo of Byblos' account as the mother of Ioud or Ledude. The name varies in transliteration. Okay, now, some interpretations suggest that she was a Phoenician divine figure or a symbolic representation of fertility and motherhood. Now, given Phoenician religious structures, she may have had connections to Astarte, Tenet, and Baalat, Jabal, who were important mother goddesses in the region. I also want to point out again that Astarte is Ishtar, also known as Inanna, and here in the Phoenician/Canaanite pantheon, she is considered Astarte. So that is Anobret. Okay. Now we go to Ledud or Iodud. Now, Ledud is Ledud. Ioud is Ieoud. Now, Ledud is said to be the son of Anabret. Some interpretations associate his name with beloved or chosen, linking it to divine favor. In some theories, Ledud may have been a sacrificial figure, perhaps connected to rituals of royal or divine consecration. His name does not appear widely outside of Philo's fragments, so it remains uncertain whether he was a mythological figure, a human ancestor hero, or a title given to certain sacred individuals. So yeah, this would be where a lot of this comes from. Is this Ledud, Ledud, and he would have been referred to, or he may have been like a sacrificial figure, perhaps connected to these rituals that are later interpreted as being sacrificing babies in urns and stuff of that nature. But let me also point out his name does not appear widely outside of Philo's fragments. So you have to take that into consideration as well. It's not mentioned at all. Very, very little. The figures appear in passages discussing ancient Phoenician theogony, the succession of gods and their interaction with humans. Now, if Anabret is indeed a mother goddess, her role may be tied to the lineage of divine or semi-divine kings, reflecting the Phoenician tendency to mix mythology with dynastic rule. Now, that brings us into stuff like sacred bloodline. Now, if Anabret was considered a divine ancestor, Ledud may have represented a semi-divine ruler or priestly lineage. Then you have sacrificial rite. Some scholars have linked Ledud to the firstborn sacrifices. And that was found in Phoenician and Carthaginian traditions, where elite families were supposed to have offered their children in rites to Baal Haman or Tanit. Um, Now, this is an area that I can look deeper into, but I mean, I probably should. I probably should go back through and do a deeper dive on Haman, because even though I don't want to, and Tanit, see what's going on there. Now, also, Ladud shares similarities with Hebrew uh, Dod, D-O-D, which is beloved, which might indicate an honorific title rather than a personal name. So Ladud could be like, it has similarities with the Hebrew word Dod, basically. So, and that's one thing that a lot of people who are Christian and Jew, who are Judaic, they have a hard time with the idea that the Jewish people were Canaanites, and you can find evidence in the Bible where there's parts that just don't fit, and if you take a look at the older Canaanite stories, you'll find out that they fit in there. But what it was is somehow they slipped through the cracks. You know what I mean? Like the War of the Lords of the Gods or something like that, which is in the Old Testament, is still there, and it doesn't relate to anything else. And people are sitting there saying, "What is this all about?" Well, if you go back and you look at the older texts of El, and you look at a lot of the things that were going on within the Canaanite pantheon, you'd see where that comes from. You know what I mean? But you have to have an open mind and be able to see it. As time went by, the Hebrews decided that they were going to break away from it. Everybody always talks about the Christian canon, but they don't realize that kind of stuff was going on beforehand. Okay, the Jewish were going through and taking stuff out of the Torah way before Christianity was around. They revised the Old Testament or the Torah, I think, 2 or 3 times before Christianity even came around. So, and for me, I believe that what it was is they started realizing that they didn't want those pagan writings in their stories anymore, so they started taking them out because they wanted to separate themselves from what they were to what they wanted to be. So that's just me, though. I mean, and if you guys want to cuss at me and say dirty words, you can. You're in chat, so I'll forgive you this time. As long as you're not saying it to my face and being all mean, I'm fine. Which now it looks like I am in a position where I have to delete another comment on Kick from a person trying to solicit. So I have that taken care of. Checking the streams, seeing if anybody has any comments so far, and I have found nothing. So we're all good. All right. So, and like I said, I don't have my notes put together very well tonight. And this is probably the one area where I really wish I did have them put together a lot better than what I've got them. So I do apologize to you guys for that. It's like I said, this whole week has just been outrageous. But that is something that I have to put up with. Now, I did cover that. Now, I could go through and talk about Santa Chinathan or Tawadas, but me and Karma, we really covered Tawadas very well. I think we did an excellent job of that. It was just sad that we had to get into this topic, and you know, an argument had to have been started. Which, by the way, I took them out of the 15-minute videos because um, I still think of her as a good friend, and I hope she still thinks of me as a good friend too. But it's something that I don't want to revisit, and I don't want people to freaking have to visit either. Because like I said, this is a very, very touchy situation, a very, very touchy topic. I almost lost her as a friend, and even today we barely talk like we used to, and that was all because of this. That's one reason why I'm doing this on my own. Nobody else is coming in. Nobody else is having a conversation with me about it because this stems off into a lot of other hateful, hateful stuff. That's the only way I can say it. It's propagated a lot of death. Um, there's things that happen in the freaking Middle Ages, which has directly resulted because of this. And not too many people want to talk about that. I don't really want to talk about it either because it causes a lot of emotions inside of me. So I try to stay away from that. Now, I believe that I've covered everything on there. I've discussed what Eusebius has said about the serpent. And again, I want to mention too, this goes back to what I was talking about with the serpent and the bird connection. It is everywhere. Even Native Americans here in America, which is North America, South America, Central America included, all of them have that bird serpent connection. Here recently, I've been talking about mountain worshiping and also trees, like the world tree, and things of that nature, and they're all connected and they're everywhere. So these are things that are popping up all over the place. Now, with that being said, I'm going to continue my reading, and hopefully, I can cover enough time to cover an hour and a half because it took like a half an hour just to start this, and we can get a good hour's worth of content in. But I will continue with Eusebius's writing. Okay, we have spoken. No, we have spoken more fully about it in the memoirs entitled Ethothea, or Thea, which is Ethothhiae, in which we prove that it is immortal and is self-consumed, as is stated before. For this animal does not die by a natural death, but only if struck by a violent blow. The Phoenicians call it great daemon. In like manner, the Egyptians also call it Kneph, and they add to it the head of the hawk because of the hawk's activity. Now, Epheus, which is Epeis, is also, who is called among them a chief, a hierophant, and sacred scribe, and whose work was translated by Arius and Heracleopolis, speaks in an allegory word for word. No, speaks in an allegory word for word as follows: the first and most divine being is a serpent with the form of a hawk, extremely graceful, which whenever he opens his eyes, filled all with light in his original birthplace. But if he shuts his eyes, darkness came on. Epius here intimates that he is also a of a fury or fiery substance, but saying he shone through, for to shine through is peculiar to light. From from the Phoenicians, Parasitus. Okay, from the Phoenicians, Parasitus also took the first ideas of his theology concerning the God called by him Ophion, and concerning the Ophionidae, Ophionidae, which is spelled Ophionnidae, of whom we shall speak again. That was horrible. But anyhow, I did go and pull up some more information about Epia or Epia, not Epi, as a hierophant or sacred scribe. Now, Epi is described as a chief, hierophant, and sacred scribe, meaning that he was likely a religious authority responsible for interpreting and transmitting sacred knowledge. Now, his writings, which were translated by Arius or Heracleopolis, seem to focus on Phoenician cosmology and theology, using allegoric languages to describe divine beings and primordial forces. Now, the divine serpent in a hawk's form, okay, that means that this divine being, which combines the features of a serpent and a hawk, appears to be a symbol of primordial light and darkness. Now, the description suggests it is a being of fury essence, which could connect it to solar or celestial deities. Now, the act of opening its eyes bringing light and closing them bringing darkness resembles Egyptian, Mesopotamian, and other Near East myths of gods controlling cosmic order through sight or presence. The serpent imagery aligns with the Ophite traditions and the worship of serpent gods, a motif found in Phoenician, Canaanite, and even Gnostic traditions. And if you remember, in Gnostic traditions, they have the lion with the serpent, which is something to also take into consideration. Now, the connections to Pherasides or of Syros and Ophion, that's something that I want to get into. Okay, too. The text claims that Pherasides of Syros in 6th century BCE, which is a 6th century BCE Greek philosopher, borrowed elements of this Phoenician theology to construct his own cosmology. Now, Pherasides' mythology, Ophion, is a serpent-like primordial deity, and the Ophionidae, they played roles in the creation of the cosmos. Now, this suggests that early Phoenician beliefs heavily influenced Greek religious thought, especially in the realm of primordial creation myths. Now, there could be possible connections to Egyptian and Phoenician thoughts, which I've believed for quite some time, because the Phoenicians actually, up in the northern part comes from the Hittite areas. And I've always noticed from the stuff that I've read that even though they did have great battles, some of the greatest battles in all of history, um, the Hittites and the Egyptians had a very close bond with one another. And that's something that always stuck out to me, even with, just other topics besides what we're talking about here. They called themselves brothers, when their rulers wrote to one another. They were always referring to one another as brothers. So that's something that did stick out to me. So for me, I've seen possible connections between the Egyptians and the Phoenicians as well as the Canaanites. Now, the serpent with a hawk's form strongly resembles the Egyptian god Kneph, often depicted as a serpent associated creator deity. It also recalls Ra and Horus, both associated with light, vision, and solar power. The connection between fire, sight, and creation in Epius's account suggests that this might be an early Phoenician conceptualization of a creator god akin to El or Baal, or an unknown cosmic force. Now, Epius appears to be a Phoenician priest or scribe, like I said, who recorded in early cosmology, later referenced in Greek and Phoenician theological traditions. His description of a serpent hawk deity as the first and most divine being reflects a Phoenician understanding of cosmic order, light, and divine power, one that influenced later Greco-Roman and even Gnostic thought. The association with Pherecydes and Ophion further suggests that elements of Phoenician theology spread into the Mediterranean world, shaping broader mythological traditions. Um, and with that, what I'm saying is that I believe that it was the other way around. I don't believe like Egyptian thought came up and influenced uh, Greeks like I did in the beginning of this stream, actually. And like even when I first started streaming, I always thought that the Greeks came down to Egypt and they basically incorporated the Egyptian ideas into their mythos. But now, after doing a lot of this, I'm starting to realize that it wasn't that at all. A lot of it had to do with all of these cultures kind of like blending into one another, because as you can hear while I'm reading this, we've got Babylonian traditions that are being influenced or that are being incorporated into Canaanite and Phoenician traditions. You can also find it in the Hittites traditions as well as the Assyrians and Egyptians as well. So they were kind of like incorporating their belief systems together. They were doing that. And I actually am glad that I did this. I'm even happier with the idea that I did it on my own without anybody else, because I did not want any kind of bad results coming out of this. This is something that I do want to discuss, but I don't think that it would be wise to have more than one person doing it. Now, later on, I can have an open conversation about this, maybe on Wow Talk or something. But I don't think that having anybody on this episode would have been a good idea. I think that I was able to get through it as well as I could. I really wish that I could have taken the outline and done better with it. I I really messed up on doing the notes. I honestly thought that I had all my stuff, or I had more information than I could do. I didn't even realize that I'd run out of notes last week. So I kind of had to rush all of this and put it all together as quick as I can. Next time I come in, I will have it better organized, and I will also be going into new areas of where I was supposed to be, because this is old stuff right here that me and Karma had covered, but it didn't. I didn't really cover this stuff as well as what I could have done. You know what I mean? And this is actually something that I'm glad I was able to finish up on. I believe that I have been able to cover an hour's worth of material for you guys. I know that it took about an hour or a half an hour to get everything set up and stuff. I was running late. This whole week has been just crazy as heck, so I apologize for that. I will be back next week, and next week I am going to be moving forward in these notes. According to my notes, this is where I need to be. So it's pretty cool. Let me see here real quick. Yep, this is it. So this is starting out with going forward after the stuff that me and Karma had discussed. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm going to go through again, see if anybody told me anything that was horribly disgusting or bad mouthing me, calling me a degenerate pagan loser. No, nobody. So I did good. I did good. I got out of this with room to spare. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like, subscribe, and share. Also, leave a comment in the comment section. I love to have talks with people about these topics. So don't be afraid, man. You know, reach out and say hi and leave a comment. I love that. So with that being said, I'm going to end it, and thank you guys for watching.